Hello and welcome back to a YouTube video. Today I'm going to be doing the patch 14.6 notes, so if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, and let's get into it. To begin with, I want to do a giveaway, so this is a bit of a thank you to everyone who has supported me over the last year. It's been quite an interesting journey to have, not being a particularly big YouTuber and then slowly growing up over the last year and a bit. When I kind of like really kicked off my YouTube channel, doing these tier lists and just content around League of Legends. It's been very enjoyable, and as a thank you, I wanted to do a giveaway. So the giveaway is going to be 20 quid's worth of RP. All you have to do is be in EU West to enter. You've got to follow, retweet, and like the post. This is going to be under a Twitter post. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and write your name beneath the post, and once you've done that, you can be entered into the giveaway, and I'll give that out by 3 p.m. GMT Tuesday, so next week 3 p.m. GMT Tuesday, and that's as a thank you to everyone who's been supporting me. But yeah, moving on with the video. 40.6 is a relatively mediocre patch. There's not a huge amount of changes. Of course, a lot of frustration points have been hit though. Smolder, Senna, Karma, Gragas, all very frustrating within their respective elos. Smolder just across the game in general at the moment. The champion's really oppressive to play against, and it's been very frustrating and competitive. Lots of pentacles have happened, and it's really just devalued the value of them. But yeah, those are the main things. Of course, on the buff side of things, we're seeing a lot of tanks get buffed. It's pretty big, as most of these champions just haven't really seen a huge amount of play within the top meta as of recent. The Sunfire's buffs just weren't really enough, and yeah, they're getting a bit of love for it. So moving on, Briar is getting nerfed. She is really good within the jungle at the moment. I've actually started to see a bit of Briar top towards the end of this patch. It was something I was made aware of like 2 patches ago. I've seen actually a couple of people come into my comment sections and been writing about Briar should be in the top lane tier list and how she's a decent top laner. I give it a go myself. Yeah, it seems decent. The damage, the wave clear, the healing, she's very oppressive in terms of the fact that you can run like PTA and just like really quickly apply it and just chase people down with this. And yeah, it works quite nicely. But as this is a primary jungle nerf, let's cover it. So Q Head Rush is now going to have the ability to jump towards, which is a nice quality of life change. W Blood Frenzy is going to be losing 1 to 5% of its attack speed. W Snack Attack is going to be losing 1 to 5% of its healing. And the R is going to be losing 0 to 100 of its damage. These are not huge nerfs. They're decent tap downs though. W is her first max ability. R losing a bit of damage definitely does hurt her ability to all in later on into the game. They are mostly focused towards scaling. Of course, she doesn't really see competitive play, so hitting the early game wouldn't make much sense. But yeah, this should do a bit to nerf her within average play, as that's where she tends to thrive at the moment. Cho'Gath is just doing pretty poorly across all elos. Neither his tank or his AP build have really picked up much traction. But with these changes, he should definitely find a bit better of a spot within the meta. W is having its cooldown reduced from 13 to 9 to 11 to 9. This is a relatively big change, as this is his last max ability within tank, where you usually go like E, Q, W max. It can oftentimes be opted into as a first max in certain variations, like in mid lane, like AP matchup sometimes, but oftentimes you also just see Q max as like the main way AP goes, so you can one-shot backlines and then one-shot front lines at certain AP thresholds. E, of course, is the main thing here, though. 22 to 70 to 22 to 82. Having this damage added back into his kit is very important, as E max is the way you usually go for tank variations of Cho'Gath, where you're getting the grasp, you're getting the damage down. Of course, this does also help his Hail of Blades builds, where you are also maxing E first. Overall, yeah, the changes are very big for Cho'Gath, and he should definitely be in a lot better of a spot with these. I could definitely see him reappearing as a solid top option, and mid option for that matter. Diana is going to have her attack speed ratio increased. Her attack speed growth is going to be going down though. This is still going to be a buff with the attack speed ratio going up. On her passive, it's also going to be losing a bit of attack speed, going from 15 to 40% to 15 to 35%. The empowered bonus attack speed is now tripled for 3 seconds. Was tripled for 3 seconds, is now tripled for 5 seconds, which is also a very nice change. It allows her to maintain more uptime. It definitely helps her jungle clear out. And yeah, should be good changes towards Diana. This is going to be massively jungle skewed compared to mid lane, where she is already doing decently. Galio is going to have a bunch of changes. The main goal here is to try and push him towards tankier builds, such as the Roa, the Cosmic Drive, the Leandry, stuff like this. The main things here are the passive has been kind of pushed towards being able to be rotated twice within like burst combos, and his his passive is now being enabled to like be rotated twice, and it does a bit less damage, along with most of his kit doing a bit less damage. But his W now has a health ratio, should make him a bit stronger when itemizing towards health items. Overall, it'll be interesting to see where these changes put him. I imagine this will be kind of elite skewed. Galio, when he's able to opt into tankier variations, tends to be a bit more elite locked, as just having a bit more utility rather than just being a flat out AP assassin is what they prefer, and does tend to function better within competitive environments. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the direction this goes, whether it ends up being a nerf, staying relatively neutral in power, or whether it ends up just being a decently amount power positive. He doesn't have have much win rate to like gain before he would be nerfed back down. So if this is power positive, expect like either maybe a hot fix or just a nerf in the next patch. Of course, if he does end up being too weak, then I imagine they would buff him back up. But yeah, should be interesting to see. Gragas is going to have his base health reduced by 30, and the Q barrel cost is going to go from 80 to 60 to 80 at all ranks. This was a change they introduced when Gragas was struggling a bit in the top lane, but now they've pulled it back as he's overperforming in top lane. The main thing with Gragas is he's just a very good neutralizer and still can do a huge amount of damage. Of course, the base health going down makes him a bit more punishable, also hurts his passive, so there is like multiple things within that. And yeah, this should definitely hurt his ability to just hold out lanes and act as like a neutralizer, but he should still be very good at it, and I don't imagine this will suddenly knock him massively far down the tier list. Karma is getting a bunch of changes. So Karma is, of course, very oppressive within the mid lane. She's like the number one mid to go to at the moment, Ari being number 2. But yeah, Karma going to have her mana growth go down from 50 to 40. The mana regeneration growth is going to go from 0.5 to 0.8. The passive cooldown refund is going to go from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. The Q mana cost is going to go from 45 to 40 to 80. Our mantra is going to go from 40 to 31 to 40 to 34. And RE is going to go from 25 to 175 to 55 to 170. So it is a buff early game where you are able to get the REs. It's a buff early to try and push her more towards like a supportive route, and like a nerf late where she's going, the nerf late will hit her more in solo lanes where she is getting those later levels compared to something like support where you are more of a powerhouse early levels. But I don't imagine this is going to suddenly fix Karma's issues. She will still be lane skewed, I imagine, with these changes, but just a decent amount of power down. It could be anything from like B tier, C tier kind of area. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Of course, Malignance is a very good item on Karma at the moment. Same goes for Cosmic Drive, Horizon Focus, and then opting into things like Rabadons all work quite nicely on her. And yeah, this should definitely help that kind of variation. Kayn is going to have his Darken Q damage increase. It's going to go from 5% to 6% of target's maximum HP on that ratio. And the Reaping Slash is now going to lock out items when it's being used. So no more like Profane Hydra. In the past, what would have been like Gore Drinker. You can now no longer use Ability Stringer's Q, basically cancelling out the entire animation, which is a good change. It was kind of ridiculous how much he synergized with Profane Hydra for this reason. Of course, the R is also being nerfed, 175 bonus AD to 150% bonus AD, which is a large nerf. This is a decent amount of damage done. It hurts his ability to smite RU, which is a very good way of just doing a huge amount of damage without any counterplay. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the changes kind of leave Blue Kayn, as these are the nerfs are targeted towards Blue Kayn. They don't affect Rust, but the Q percentage health damage does affect Rust, and is just a Rust primary buff. Yeah, a change like this should definitely help Rust. It will put him in a very good spot, for sure. Ornn is going to have his E cooldown decreased from 16 to 12 to 14 to 12. This doesn't do a huge amount, as E max is you usually go W max into E max. I don't see this suddenly opening up a Q max angle. Q max is significantly worse than E max as a second option. But yeah, maybe, I mean, it will help the times into ranged matchups where you are going 3 points QW into Emax. That is the biggest win case of this situation. Against champions like Quinn, Akshan, where you are more likely using like Arcane Comet and like Q spamming. Then yeah, it's a bit of a buff in those situations, but for the most part, it's not going to do a huge amount. One I imagine will still be a bit on the weak side, but they are looking to do some adjustments to him in the future. Rek'Sai is having 2 bug fixes, one to her W, one to her ultimate. Senna is going to have her passive missed spawn rate go from 8.333 to 2.8%, which is a big nerf. This has seen Senna drop out of the ADC role in the past. Do I think it will suddenly change that in this season? No, I think Senna is still going to be in a strong enough spot to like hold on as a good ADC option. I just imagine this will take her from like an S plus tier to like an A tier, maybe B tier option. But yeah, she'll still be solid as a support, and if you're pairing her with the likes of the Tahm Kench and like other pairings like Karthus, Nyla, stuff like that, she should still be very strong. Shen is going to have his passive cooldown refund go from 4 to 7.5 to 4 to 7.5, but instead it's going to be linear scaling instead of at random breakpoints, which is what it is currently. This is a buff from levels 2 to 17 and is most pronounced at levels 8 to 16. So yeah, a change like this should definitely help his ability to just rotate shield more often. In some cases, this would be a nerf, but for the most part, it is a strict buff. Well, it's not a strict buff, but it is a buff in most situations. But there are still niche cases where sometimes your ability rotation doesn't quite line up, and yeah, you would end up dropping a shield when previously you might not have. Overall, I imagine this will be a bit of power to Shen. He's already in an okay spot at the moment. Heartsteel is what I'd really recommend for low elo and like mid elo. Once you get higher, he does tend to fall off a bit as the item is very like low elo skewed, but things like Titanic Hydra, Sunfires are still fine options on him. And yeah, he's a solid tank option, a supportive tank option in the top lane. Sion is going to have his Q damage increased and his W shield increased. The Q damage is going to be going from 45 to 75% of total AD ratio to 40 to 80%, so scaling more if you put points in it. The maximum damage is going to be going up from 135 to 225 to 120 to 240. The main thing here is it really hurts his ability to counter invade. Like, one of Sion's biggest strengths is his ability to counter invade, especially within like mid low, where some people aren't as conscious of the Sion in the bush oftentimes. Of course, this also does hurt the like Q onto wave start, where you are able to sometimes get decent chunk damage. On top of this, I do prefer the fact that it does now kind of incentivize to W start. As yeah, you are getting less value up the queue, but once you do have points in it, you will feel a lot better about it. The damage is going up. Definitely does incentivize things like the Sterix purchase, the Titanic Hydra purchase. Sometimes even Suns and Sky works quite decently on this champion. And yeah, should put him in a decent spot. On top of this, the W shield's gonna go from 60 to 160 to 60 to 120, so the flat damage is gonna be going down. But the scaling is gonna be going up from 8 to 12% to 8 to 16%, which is a very big buff. This should be a huge amount of health on the shield game, especially later on into the game, where you are looking at like 2,000, 3,000 bonus health on the passive. Yeah, should be huge for the champion. I imagine Sion will be in a very good spot next patch. Smolder, of course, is one of the most frustrating champions in the game at the moment. His ban rate is absurd. He is, he's really degenerate in his play style. The execute mechanic is also just a big pain point. And yeah, they are addressing it this patch. So the execute threshold is going to go from 2% plus 0.025% per sec to just a flat 6.5%. So there's no longer a scaling mechanic on this ability. This is a strict nerf. The execute conditions now would no longer no longer execute off ally damage, so it hurts his ability to get items as quickly, as he's not stealing kills off his allies as much. Also perceives him as being weaker when he really isn't losing a lot of power out of this line. The W missile radius is going to go from 125 to 115, and the E movement speed is going to go from 100% to 75%. Do I think this is going to kill the champion? No, I think the champion's actually going to be fine, honestly. I think he will still be in a very solid spot. He's fairly simple to play. He's still going to be like a solid low, mid-elo option if this does end up impacting him a significant amount in elite play. which is where I do think the champions should be kind of targeted towards, as he is like an infinitely scaling pick, and that is where they tend to be skewed towards low elo. But it would be nice if he was more balanced and like could be functional in like all areas, as that is definitely more of a healthy spot to be in. But yeah, I do think this champion is very frustrating at the moment. These changes shouldn't kill him, but definitely put him in a better spot. Tryndamere is going to have his attack speed growth go from 2.9% to 3.4%. So Tryndamere is a very frustrating champion as well. Lots of people definitely are not big fans of a big fan of this champion being buffed. He is a bit on the weak side though, so it does make sense for Riot to buff him. He did lose a bit of power with the nerf to lethal tempo for melee champions, and they are giving it back within this attack speed growth. But he's still going to be stronger late game. Tryndamere should be in a very strong spot late game, in fact, with the attack speed growth going up and the previous changes towards lethal tempo being more late game skewed. And Navori is also getting buffed. So yeah, lots of good things coming to Tryndamere this patch. Should be in a very good spot. Volibear is going to have his Q movement speed go down from 12 to 32% to 12 to 28%. And the R cooldown is going to be going up by 10 seconds flat, 10 seconds at early ranks, of course scaling down to 0 later on into the at 3 points in this ability. Should be decent buffs, should be decent, oh my god, I can't speak anymore. Should be decent nerfs towards jungle Volibear. That is, of course, where he is performing best at the moment. It will hurt his ability to top lane, but it is already in an okay spot, so this should just bring it towards being like a very average pick. Jungle Volibear, I imagine will still be very strong with the buffs which came into him a couple patches ago, especially with like the Rescinded Sky builds performing really well at the moment. On the item side of things, in Affinity Edges, critical strike damage is going to go up from 40% to 50%. Navori Quick Blade is going to be gaining 5 AD, and the build path is going to be changed. And LDR and Mortal Minor are going to be gaining 5% armor pen. Overall, these are big changes towards ADCs. This should definitely help their scaling aspect primarily. But yeah, sometimes on-hit marksmen do end up picking up things like LDR later on into the build, and that will still help them a decent amount. Junglers and supports are no longer able to pick up early Doran's items. This does hurt certain situations like Camille starting something like a Doran's Blade, and like Graves, Belveth sometimes picking up D-Blades as well within the jungle. Early income supports is also being tagged. Actually, it's more mid-game income for supports is being tagged down. They are trying to keep the support item being activated at around the same time, but they are cutting down the amount of gold given via the support item by about 200. So it should be an impact towards supports getting their first item online. We'll definitely tag them down a bit. But yeah, support is overperforming at the moment, and Riot are addressing it, so that's a good change. Source to Stay is also being nerfed. The bonus MS is going to go down from 25% for 3 seconds to 20% for 2.5 seconds. The item is still performing very well, and it makes sense for them to tap it down again. On the epic item side of things, they are nerfing them. The perception is with epic items is that they shouldn't feel like items that have like a huge impact at like break points within the game. Like a champion, like let's take Renekton for example. You acknowledge when Renekton has 3 items, but when Renekton has 2 items and a Caulfield, you don't perceive this champion as being as strong, even when Caulfield is giving him a lot of power. They're kind of trying to address this patch, where they are tapping down a couple of the epic items to bring them more in line and make them less valuable than just buying out something like a BF sword, for example. So Barmies is going to be having its immolation damage changed from 12 plus 1% bonus health to 13 plus 0.5% bonus health. This incentivizes finishing some fires, finishing the other one, which is not coming to mind, the magic resist one, which does hurt tanks a decent amount. A lot of tanks do like to sit on Barmies at the moment. Caulfield's Warhammer is going to be losing 5 attack damage. Phoenix Codex is going to be losing 10 ability power, which is a decent amount. Glacial Buckler is going to have its recipe changed, and it's going to go up by 50 gold in cost. Haunting Guys is going to be losing 5 ability power. Heartbound Axe is going to be losing 5 attack damage and going down 50 gold in cost. Hextech Alternator is going to be losing 5 ability power. Kyrgyzstan is going to be losing 10 flat damage. Sorority Duck is going to be losing 5 attack damage. Spectre's Cow is going to have its recipe changed, health go down by 50, and the unique passive is going to be changed to 100% base health regen. Steel Sigil is now going to be Cloth Armor, Longsword, Cloth Armor, instead of Cloth, it's going to be Cloth Armor, Longsword, Cloth Armor, instead of Cloth, Longsword. Brutalizer is going to go from 8 lethality to 5. Tunneler is going to go up by 50 golden cost. And Verdant Barrier is going to be going down 100 golden cost, in fact. So, nice change for Verdant Barrier. Void Grubs are going to be changed, so they now heal instead of giving a shield, which is a nice change for helping top laners to pick up 1 and then like back off, go back to lane kind of thing. A couple of ARM changes, and yeah, that's mostly it for this patch. So Mythic Shop rotation, bug fix and quantity of life changes. This one is pretty funny, as this has been in the game for a long time for Vandal Gragas skin, where like everyone runs it because it's got like the override animation ability. That has now been changed, which is a nice thing to have. Also this is a big win for the Vayne one trick, the 47 guy. He Palmer complains about this change, so he'll be very happy about this. And yeah, upcoming skins of Chromas, Kha'Zix, Eve, Gragas, Rel, Yone, the Yone Scam, Mythic Chroma, and yeah, Prestige, High Noon, Eve. So, bunch of cool skins there. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the patch. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Oh yeah, make sure you take a part in the giveaway. That will be going live on my Twitter when this video comes out. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next one. Goodbye.